Hello, hello, welcome. We're live, or we should be.
Excelente. Welcome to the stream of truth. I am Dr. Tassel Faith Shamebrook.
And I am Sean Kelly, wizard.
Wizard extraordinaire. Uh, this is a great topic today. One of my favorites. Live from your heart.
This is, I think, one of the hardest things to do in a consistent type of aligned way.
Yes.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but the I guess we'll just jump right into it. The egoic mind just frets and worries and
freaks out
and just constantly freaking out about everything.
Yeah.
And it can really feel like decisions have to be made from a place of like
practicality,
right,
and security, and
right,
yeah,
and this idea that if you don't do that, that somehow things will turn out wrong, or right,
things will be disastrous.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah. If I don't
plan ahead. Yeah.
If I don't think about all these problems that I could face and prepare for them all.
Yes.
Then perhaps I will get screwed over.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a tough one. I found in myself.
Absolutely. I think it's extremely courageous to live from your heart. And extremely rewarding, but it takes a lot of, in a way, comforting the ego, comforting the thinking mind through the
Absolutely.
process.
I think too that some people are built like, so for me, and I think Jamie will probably resonate with this. I'm not sure if she's on yet, but I think Jamie will resonate with this. I think she's very similar in this way where we don't think too much to the future around what's going to happen and what things that we just tend to go and do as we do.
Yeah.
And that I think is sort of following the heart.
Yes.
So there's some people that are, and even though that naturally comes easy to me to not worry so much and trust my, like I sort of trust that intuitively, throughout my life, I've been fine. Whatever's come up, I've been fine. So
yes.
I figure it out. I eventually found fairly early on that worrying a ton just didn't seem to be helpful in any way. Sometimes stuff I worried about did occur and other times it didn't. But the worry itself never really prepared me that much or really changed anything.
Right.
The things happened as they happened. And what I noticed that if I didn't worry about it, I would approach it, and I may still experience a difficult situation, but
yes,
I was fine. It was always fine.
Yes.
At the end. Sometimes it took a while to feel fine, but eventually I got there, right?
And I would say that historically, I've been more the opposite of what you've described. My thinking mind has very much wanted to be in control and plan and very linear and organized and, very socialized in that Western way of thinking.
Yeah. And I tried to be that way, but had difficulty. My internet seems to be doing something weird with the stream. Just 1 second here.
Okay.
I think we're okay now. We were dropping some frames there for a second.
Okay. And over the past 5 years, since my divorce, basically, and so much time more on my own, I feel I've slowly but surely been moving into this space of relaxing the thinking mind and really living from my heart. And one of the ways I kind of compare these two ways of living are that in the previous way of being, where my thinking mind was really totally in control, there was like an illusion of security. Like it, in some ways, the thinking mind felt safe for instance, even when I was staying in a marriage that wasn't really working, but it felt like financially secure, or, oh, I could be with my children all the time. These sort of illusions of security. And then at the same time, it was so deadening, so depressing. I felt literally just not alive. And then in this different way of living, where I'm living pretty much from my heart, at times I'm scared. At times my thinking mind is very scared, terrified at times.
Totally.
Because the path is not really clear, and I'm sort of going day by day on faith and my guidance. But I feel so alive.
Yeah.
And embodied by spirit.
Yeah. And
so I'm very willing to kind of move through the fear to feel alive.
Yeah, I think you touched on a really good point there. I think the reason that we can feel not alive is, and because, so first I wanted to say that I think we categorize like aspects of our living, and some areas we're like, oh, I just do as I please and it's fine. Mm-hmm. But in other areas, perhaps I have to sit and plan and think and and do all these different things. And I think what ends up happening is when we're in that like stressed or anxious state, like imagining the future and the various things that could happen, we're basically not present. So we're not living that moment. We're living a future imagined moment that or we're worried about what happened in the past that informs what we think could happen next. But whatever we're doing, we're not present. And so we're not living that moment. We're not experiencing that moment really. We're in other places.
Exactly. And we have blocked off spirit moving through us. We're not really connected to our divinity in those moments.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what feels very deadened. We're cut off from ourselves as spirit.
And then the energy of worry, and stress and fear is low vibration.
Yes.
So we feel more encumbered, or we feel like we might have weight on our shoulders, or, and enough of that behavior, and we start to have issues in the body come up.
Physical
manifestation. Of this dis-ease.
Yes.
And so it's I think it's a really crucial thing to try to learn how to step away from that.
Absolutely. And then what also happens is the thinking mind has taken over and is trying really hard to figure out what to do, make a plan, next action, and is almost forcing things. Whereas when we sort of, what's the phrase? Give the wheel to Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
You know that phrase? Oh, Jesus, take the wheel.
Jesus, take the wheel, yeah.
Jesus, take the wheel. When we let spirit take the wheel and we just kind of relax and feel that alignment and just kind of wait for the inspiration to come in, it always does.
Yeah, and I would like to say, too, that you may feel inspired to take a mitigative type approach to something, right? Like you may feel inspired. Oh, good morning, Jamie. Thanks for joining. Oh, that's all right. She missed the alert, she said. No worries.
Thank you.
She did that shocked face, that like that. I love that one. So what was I saying? I was saying something.
We might take mitigated action.
Right. We might be inspired to take an action that mitigates against something that could happen. Right. Like, and so, I'm not trying to ever suggest that those things are not worth doing if they're inspired, but if they come from a place of, oh my gosh, I better do this, otherwise, then that's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is when you're like, you just feel, oh, I should do this and you just feel like you should do that, you're not really worried that you're mitigating anything. You're just sort of doing it because it just seems like you're supposed to, or it just seems like, what's the word? It just seems wise to do this.
Yeah. Seems like the right thing.
It just seems like the right thing to do to do that. And that's the difference, I think, between, you know, you very well, I think, could be mitigating that risk. And, you know, your sort of spirit is ensuring that you don't experience this thing that spirit has no desire for you to experience, right? So
yes, I like the idea. My old way of thinking, when I was heavily in my thinking mind, was I need to be vigilant. I need to think about everything that could possibly happen and how I need to prepare and all that.
Yep.
The way I like to think about it now is, in general, I'm just present. In general, I'm aware of my thoughts. I'm aware of them. I accept them. But I'm living more, I like to call it my heart mind. I'm living in my heart mind. I'm really listening to the murmurs, the whispers, the guidance of my heart, of my soul. And if there's anything I really need to do, I can trust something will come through about that. Mm-hmm. I don't have to live in my thinking mind of being so vigilant. I can just trust if there's something I really need to take care of, I will be alerted.
Yeah. And I'd like to say too, as somebody who has had real struggle with their like memory and remembering particular tasks and all of that, what I've noticed is that I always I forget things in the most perfect chaotic ways that
like it all does work out. It's not,
it works out.
You don't have to try so hard to remember everything.
Either I remember it and it's fine, or I don't remember it and a bunch of stuff happens.
Yeah.
But then it's also fine. And you know, people in my life have been very, very judgy with my memory and a lot of projection around like, oh, if he forgot this, he must not care. You know, when these types of things. Yeah. And so I've experienced lots of situations where like I have no idea why or what happened. I just didn't remember. And I started to realize that I don't really have a say in what I recall to do or not do. You know, the things come up or they don't. And I'm not really in control of what I recall in any moment. You know, the things come up. So we can like sort of let ourselves just know that what will come is the stuff that we're supposed to have come.
Yes, it's transitioning out of the illusion that I'm in charge of my life. Mm-hmm.
And I'm in charge of the thoughts that come, the memories, the things I recall to do.
And that I need to stay on top of everything, or like a house of cards, it's all going to fall away, to the truth that spirit, and of course we are spirit is guiding all of this. And we're in a way along for the ride. Yeah,
exactly. We were just talking about this morning. It's sort of like we're on a conveyor belt, and everything is already sort of, everything that approaches is, you know, sort of destined.
Right?
Mm-hmm, and we're just sort of standing there looking at it all, right?
It's very, I'm not always in that state, but when I'm able to really tune into that truth, it's such a relief.
Right.
It's such a relief. I don't have to be in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Spirit is in charge of it. And as I get the intuitive nudges to do this and go there and feel this, I just follow it. I'm just being directed basically in my soul's path.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like we can think ourselves into all these like corners and these predicaments. And this is one of the ways that we create our own lessons. Like,
Yes.
we think ourselves into confusion, and then have to, I said earlier today, I said something about understanding or lessons.
We can't learn something until we misunderstand something first.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the ways that spirit will create for us, or ensure that a lesson gets created, is through our own egoic sort of confusion and illusion of control.
Yes.
So like we think that, for example, we think that the state that we're in now is not right somehow, and that we have to be in a different state. Maybe it's a state of mind, or a feeling, or it could be a financial state. It could be anything, right?
That something is wrong.
Something's wrong, and so I need to change it. And usually the lesson is that you're perfect as you are.
Yes.
You have everything you need to do what you're on the path to do. Your path may be, there may be like periods of poverty in your path, or there may be whatever it is, but it's all appropriate. It's all like meant for you,
for your particular expansion.
Right.
That one of my favorite mantras that I just say all the time is, I trust life. I trust life. I trust life. I trust that everything that is happening for me and for everyone else is serving the highest good.
Exactly. And that's why when we I've often thought about something like this. So I'm very I have a real hard time about doing this with people, like how to act only from my heart, or speak only from my heart.
Yes, we
because
talked about this a lot.
So I tend to tiptoe, or not broach topics that I think might cause the other to have some sort of suffering. I can be sort of in a way like people pleasing that way. And a lot of times the suffering I imagine they might experience isn't real. Like they won't experience that. And we've talked about this a little bit, where I've treated you as like fragile in some ways, where I maybe don't speak about a certain thing because I'm worried you might get upset or something. I think we talked about that with the logistics of the travel or something it was. So we all have these like areas where we should probably focus more on trying to lead from our heart and our truth. And I think it's really important to like notice where we do this well and where we're maybe not doing it as well as we'd like to, and then try to make those adjustments. So, I think that's one of the key things. And so for me, my thing is in relationships, where I feel like I have to analyze the whole interaction before I speak. In order to make sure that I speak appropriately and all that type of thing. And so I often have wondered about like something like this. So if there's a homeless person on the side of the road, and let's say I'm a billionaire, right? Is it appropriate for me to walk up to this person and offer them $100,000, let's say? I'm a billionaire, so $100,000 is really not that much money to me. It's not much different than giving a homeless man a 20 in my current financial situation, right? It's, it's not actually my current financial situation. It's not like that at all. But if I were to give them $100,000, or felt inclined to do so, am I infringing on their experience? Right? Am I what am I doing here? And why am I doing this? So am I doing this because I'm, most times, we don't like to admit this, but most of the time, when we're offering like help and assistance and advice and guidance and whatever, we're judging the situation as wrong. And I'm not saying that person may not take the money. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just offering that thought of a lot of times when we decide to jump into these things where we try to change other people, most of the time it's coming from our own discomfort.
Absolutely.
And then we tend to rationalize it, go, oh, I'm helping. So it's okay because I'm helping. I'm not sure how I got onto that, but it's just something that I noticed, I guess, in myself. And it's like a question of ethics and I guess morals. And I think what I'm trying to suggest is that we do as we feel inclined to do, and we don't really question it. So if we feel inclined to give the person $100,000, we offer it to them. If they don't want it, they don't take it. If they do want it, they take it. Whatever happens is fine. But we're not acting from a place of trying to change things so much as we're just doing what feels right to do, if that makes sense. So that's, I think, what I was trying to highlight is like often we're trying to change something. Like we're pointing at a thing, a state, a whatever, and saying, this is not right. I have to change it. Therefore, I will do this action. And is sort of the point in regards to this topic of living from our heart that's not really living from our heart. That's more living from an egoic agenda. Exactly. That's judgment of whatever's occurring. It's the sort of the opposite of acceptance and surrender. And it's the opposite of forgiveness. If it were forgiven, there'd be no impetus or inclination to change it. And that entire concept of, oh, I better do something to fix this doesn't exist. So if you're acting simply to act is when you're I think when we're acting like from our heart primarily. So we speak literally just to speak, or when we act or do something just because we feel like it. That's basically as simple as it is.
Living from our hearts.
It's when we start to explain why we must. Why I must do this thing is because
if there's an agenda.
And sometimes there are agendas that are like positive things that we're okay with. And then there are agendas that are not so positive. And so, if we're
I think one of the ways to make the discernment is if we're super attached to the agenda, it may have some egoic origins. If we're okay either way, and we're just shooting for highest and best in whatever we're doing, that seems more pure and more from the heart. We don't need something to happen.
A good way to think about that is if there's like fear around like maybe the opposite of what your preference would be. So if you have a preference, that's great. I think preferences are fine. But if you have the preference and then think, oh, but if the preference doesn't happen, that actually kind of freaks me out.
Right.
That's when we're getting ready to act from rational egoic thought instead of the heart.
And overly attached.
And I'd like to say too that it's really important, I think, not to judge ourselves when we do perform rational thought and work that way. Like that's sort of how we're built to function until we awaken. Like we're sort of oblivious to our heart's desires until we wake up, really. Like we get whispers and stuff.
We're in touch with them as children, I think.
I think so too,
we get really socialized away from them.
And
I'm wondering maybe, because we kind of just like jumped right into talking, maybe just zoom out for a minute and maybe just first define in general, like what we mean by living from the heart, and then maybe some practices that we have found helpful.
Sure.
So what do we actually mean when we say we're advocating for living from the heart?
I think each individual experiences it a little differently. First of all. But what I think we're meaning is that we're acting in expansion and love.
Yes. Yes.
We're not acting in fear, separation, or lack.
And constricting and
Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it may feel good to go cut our lawn. So we go and cut our lawn because we like the way our lawn looks when we cut it this way, and what we form our garden however we like it. We enjoy this. Another person may have that same experience and do the same thing, but they're doing it because the neighbors are very judgy, and like they're like, oh, I don't like how your lawn looks, and they're pressured into it, right?
Yeah.
External pressuring or internal pressuring. Whether their neighbors are judgmental or not, maybe their neighbors have never spoken to them in their life.
Yeah.
And the person just presumes this judgment exists.
Yes.
And acts and does their things with their gardening to present a proper image to their neighbors. So both actions are, the action in itself has no meaning to it.
Yes.
It's the frame around why it's being done that I think is matter. The intention of what's being done. Usually egoic intention comes from avoidance of discomfort.
Or feeling it's something I have to do.
I have to do this
to fit in, for practical reasons. Yeah.
And then from the heart, I'm doing this because I enjoy it.
Yes, it's something that's bringing me joy.
I feel like it.
I'm following my joy.
Yeah, and often the rational mind will pipe in after and say, here's all the reasons I'm doing it. So a lot of times we can get confused because the heart will say, let's do this, and you're like, let's do this. But then the mind starts to explain it and go, oh, I'm doing this because I would like this, and I enjoy this, and this is... and all of that is just, the ego sort of doing its thing, which is identification with everything. And it's important to notice that the initial inspiration came from expansion and love.
Yes.
The rest of it is whatever, it's just explanations. The ego will always explain.
Yeah. So basically we're saying that living from the heart is exactly that. We are making decisions based on what we enjoy, based on what we feel pulled to, based on what feels really good, rather than making decisions from fear, from scarcity, from this like security.
Yeah.
And I'll just share that for me, I just spent most of my life making decisions from what we just said, from fear and security and practicality. And then my life, I really miscreated, although it was all perfect because I had to be in confusion before I could learn the lesson. I had created a life that was so not resonant with me at all. It was not resonant with my heart.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't following my heart. And over the past 5 years, I've basically kind of cleaned up, gotten myself out of like so many situations that were not resonant, and then really leaned into my heart mind and have been living from my heart pretty much since. And one really specific example is our relationship, where we met about 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, I was still somewhat in my thinking mind, less so than 5 years ago, but still pretty anchored there. And the practicalities and everything around us as partners to my thinking mind seemed absurd.
Yeah. I got that impression too from you. Like I was like, I'm not even really an option to her. And that's it,
and I'm curious, were you were less in your thinking mind about it? Like
I had no idea how anything could work, but I had the feelings I had. So
right.
I would occasionally pop in and want to You know, sometimes I would message you and say something and you'd just not respond.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Things like that. You know, I saw it for what it was. I was like, you know, she's doesn't see me that way, really. Like,
Yeah.
I knew that you had an attraction and all that, but
Yeah.
I could tell that you had sort of explained away that type of
Yes.
that feeling.
Yes.
And I sort of thought, well, if I just keep popping up, you know, one day maybe the explanations won't be so easy for her to make, and maybe she'll see what I see. Maybe she won't.
Yes.
Who knows? And so I was pretty hands off with it. I'm not a very aggressive, like, pursuant type man. Like, I don't
Yeah.
do these types of things. So I was not pressuring, I don't think.
No.
And,
No, you were not.
but it's funny though, because right, like, initially you had said, when we first had this sort of attraction, you had said, you know, you live with your wife that you're like separating from, but you still like live there, and you were like, no, thank you. You were very nice about it, and I understood it, and I was like, yeah, it's a weird situation, I get it. So almost, you know, as soon as I left and got out of there, like within I think 2 weeks, I was like, I'd like to come visit you in Nashville, and you were like, no, I'm busy.
I said not yet. I did want you to come.
You basically said, not yet, I'm busy, is basically what you said. I mean, you did say you were interested in me coming.
Yeah.
But after you said, no, thank you, I'm busy, I was sort of like, oh, okay, never mind. So it was really interesting that, like, I kept feeling the feelings.
Yeah.
So I would just act very, you know, passive with them. Just,
Yeah, you were subtle.
I didn't want to push. I don't want to push people. And if you don't feel what I feel, then whatever, right? I mean, what am I going to do about it?
Right.
So, you know, but I had this feeling that you did feel it. So
yeah. Okay. So you could feel that.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I can tell when somebody likes me or not.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, a lot of times in my life, this has happened where somebody's liked me and then like pretended they don't.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the feeling I was getting, though I wasn't sure, of course, but I was sort of getting the feeling that you were like pretending that you didn't like me, that you were, like I said, explaining it away because the, like, on paper, it just doesn't make sense as much to the mind. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Our age difference and our place of, you know, all that. And I think all of this is just to say that, you know, all of that was perfect. It was all perfect. If we had came together that earlier on, it probably would have ended in a nightmare. So, like, it's all perfect. And like, I wasn't ready. So the way that I had this conversation with, like, my higher self the other day, where, like, sometimes we can be like, I want my partner. Where is it? Ah!
Yes.
And the higher self is going, oh no, look at yourself. You're a mess, bud. You are a mess. You don't have space for yourself, let alone a partner. Look at yourself.
Right.
You are a mess. You are in shambles. You have no space for this. But we're in our pain and in our suffering and our disappointment with the reality, the loneliness. We're like, you know, and the higher self knows that, of course, like, they're compassionate, but they're just like, no, like, it is appropriate for you to be as you are right now. And I know this hurts, but it is as it is. And so I think all of it was just to say that, you know, eventually we kind of got out of our own way and just started to follow what we felt.
Yeah. And to me, it's just such a profound example of what we're talking about today, about living from your heart, that for about 9 months after we first met, I was not in my heart about us. I was so in my mind that, oh, he's so much younger than me. He lives in Canada. he's living with his wife right now still, little children and lots of other
I'm also like so weird. Like when we first started meeting,
that wasn't a problem.
You'd be
I
like,
love all that.
You'd be like, can we talk tomorrow at 6?
Oh, that part of it.
Time isn't real, Tassel.
Well, when we first met, you were not quite in that.
Yeah, I wasn't as far gone yet.
Yeah, you became more far gone after we started.
I left the stratosphere and then, yeah. And now I come back and visit.
I just love this example because basically right under my nose was this wonderful partner, you. But I was so lost in my thinking mind. That's how I see it. I was lost in my thinking mind. I literally was blind to this amazing life partner right in front of me. And of course, the timing was all perfect. But had I not loosened the hold of my thinking mind and come into my heart, I would have missed out on this amazing man and this amazing relationship. And it just strikes me and who knows, maybe in other lifetimes, maybe I wasn't able to make that shift. Maybe in other lifetimes I stayed in the thinking mind and missed out on what could have been. And so I'm so struck by that, not just in our relationship, but in every aspect of my life, that I don't want to be lost in my thinking mind about anything and miss out on all the magic and magnificence of what could be. Yeah. And then leave my body after this incarnation and think, oh, if I'd only taken that chance.
That's what I was about to say is in the life review.
Yes.
All of the interactions between people, like I've seen the life review or chunks of it, I guess. And now I don't know, I sort of remember a bit of it, I think.
Yeah.
And the way that I understand it, or the way that I recall it, is you sort of see all interactions, all energetic interactions from you with all others from both perspectives. And so you get a glimpse of all the people that like pined for you. You get a glimpse of all of the people that were offering just love at you that like you didn't even notice. Sometimes you reject them outright. Other times, they're just friends that are just offering you love, but you're in a different state and can't notice it, or they try to say something loving and offer a little bit of advice. We take it the wrong way, and then it turns into a fight. All these types of situations, we start to notice just how blind you said. Like we are so blind most of the time because of our rational mind and all the explaining.
Yes, the fear, the rationalizing.
But it's really important not to. Like you said, it was all perfect,
Yes.
Like we ended up coming together at the right time. We ended up experiencing what we were meant to experience.
Yes.
The confusion or the interested but not interested energy that you had in me was perfect for how it was, because, it's part of that helped you probably question, like, am I just being too rigid in my thinking here? Because it feels like there's a connection. And so it's these types of experiences that open us up.
Yeah. So I had to go through the confusion to really learn. And it feels like it's burned in my soul now to not get lost in my thinking mind again. And I also wanted to just open up what we're talking about to remaining living from your heart in relationship. And we were talking a lot about this yesterday.
And this is really challenging for me, I think, to do this.
Yeah. This is like a big expansion. So what we're talking about is when you are in a committed relationship, a conscious relationship, and things can feel a little scary or there's tension or something you're working out, and then your thinking mind, again, it's the thinking mind, is going to fear. Oh my gosh, what if this doesn't work out? What if I'm going to get my heart broken?
Especially with the high stakes that it can feel very life or death. Like
yes.
Like if I say the wrong thing, like especially all of us almost have had relationships where they've been fine and then suddenly like one conversation just and it implodes, right? And so you can have this idea that could happen. And so that at least that's part of my fear, I would say, is that like my mouth has gotten me into so much trouble throughout my years that like relational trouble where I speak and then other people are like, oh, that hurts. And they flip out or something.
Yes.
And so it can be really hard to just allow that stuff to come out.
Yeah. So basically when you're in love with someone and you're really committed and you really love the other person, the relationship, you want it to work, it feels very high stakes. And so then when there's some wobbling, it can feel terrifying. And so what we were talking about yesterday is, can we both keep our hearts open through those little scary wobbly moments? Yeah. Can we not close off like as a protective mechanism? Can we keep our heart? Can we move through these situations together, both open-hearted? In a way, we're saying that, can we be bigger in our relationship than whatever the situation is? Can we be bigger, that our hearts can contain whatever's happening and that we can just trust it will all work out, it'll all move to highest and best? And can we just keep this container of open-heartedness between us so that we still feel connected, and even though there's a little difficulty, like that we're bigger. I like this idea in general, like anything that comes our way individually, that we are bigger than all of it. We can contain and deal with all of it. And then the same way in a relationship. I just like that idea too.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like I said earlier, so the categories for some people of things in life, we tend to put stuff into boxes. And so like for the majority of our life, we may be able to act from our heart without much issue. We just intuitively flow with life pretty well. I tend to be like this until something in a relationship happens. And then I go, what is the absolute best way that I can respond? Like, what is the highest and best way for me to respond that supports and appreciates them, but also supports myself, is also truthful? And I start to go through all of these scenarios and really think it into the ground.
Stuff. Maybe getting a bit lost in the mind.
Totally. I get totally lost and I lose sight of what's even happening, really. The actual thing that's occurring becomes this big, weird... I become very confused at what's even happening. So I've noticed that in myself. And like you said, it's primarily a defense mechanism to try and be sort of prepared for
the possible worst thing that could happen.
Worst. Yeah. So I'll if there's a bump, I'll go, oh, this could be the end.
Yeah, better prepare myself. Right.
This could be the end.
I'm going to shut down a bit because
I'm just going to back up, because if this explodes, then I'll die. Yeah. or whatever, right? So it's like a bomb's about to go off, and I'm like,
I'm going to run for cover.
The bomb, exactly. I'm going to get behind this barrier. I'm not going to try and defuse it with my words, or I'm not going to approach the bomb. I'm going to run away.
And what we were talking about yesterday is, I was saying, to me, the most painful experience is shutting the heart down, to me, because then I'm disconnected from myself. I'm disconnected from spirit, and I'm not really showing up for you either. And to me, that's suffering. All of that is suffering. It's just suffering.
Totally.
If I can keep my heart open, even if things are challenging with you, and maybe I might even get a bit hurt because my heart's open, and we might say some things are a little prickly. I may feel some pain, but to me, I'm not suffering. I'll feel some pain and I'll just feel it and I'll move through it, but I'm not suffering. I'm showing up in purity. I'm showing up in highest and best. I'm showing up in the best way I can. And whatever happens, it'll be okay.
Yep.
Because I'm on the right path. And I just want to mention, I hope it's okay, that last year we had like a break.
How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I just think it's like a helpful example.
Yeah.
Last year, we call it that we were on a break. But what really happened was you were moving through some things where you really had to be on your own. And at the same time, you were just not communicating with me for 3 months. And I didn't really know what was going on. And I was communicating towards you. And when I think about it, it would have been easy for my thinking mind to just shut it all down, right? Like just to close my heart to you and just think, well, he's not communicating with me for 3 months. Maybe it's just time to let this go. My thinking mind definitely had those thoughts. And I think we can all tap into this. There was the guidance. I could feel that was not the path. I could feel that is not what my heart wanted. I could feel the faith. And I think we all can tap into that, even when the external situation looks so bleak and hopeless. The external situation to my thinking mind when you were not talking to me for 3 months seemed very bleak and hopeless.
Yeah.
But that was in my thinking mind. In my heart, I could feel, I think it's going to be okay. I think we're supposed to move through this and we're going to come out the other side. And I kept my heart open and I kept my faith. And lo and behold, that is exactly what happened. So I just love that example of just when things seem so like, how could this ever work? The thinking mind is just like, freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
To just keep coming back into our heart, keep coming back to our faith. And what do I really feel? What is my faith really directing me towards here? And just continually living in that space. And I'm wondering if part of the gift for me, and maybe you too, of that whole experience between us that was very challenging, was to teach me this, don't pay attention to the thinking mind and its fears, and don't pay attention to temporary external reality completely. I'm not saying completely don't pay attention to it, but pay attention primarily to what you feel internally and where your faith is directing you. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I think that's definitely what I've had to learn in different ways. And then on my side, my experience of that was, I won't go into all of it, but, I still have a lot of, not a lot, but a little bit of like guilt and shame around how I behaved in that area. But a part of me just knows that I was doing my best. So like, could I have done it better? Oh yeah, I think I probably could have done it much better. And I didn't know at the time. I didn't know how to talk to people in an very open way. Basically, you modeled this for me. Like, I didn't know how to really do that. I had sort of felt judged and like mistreated by most people, and just sort of disappointed by most people most of my life prior to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even really fully have that concept of like, oh, I can just share what's happening, what I feel like I need,
right,
and all these things, and like we can talk about it. That didn't seem like a option.
It wasn't maybe even something
that you would have
thought
occur
to
to
do.
me. to
Right.
tell anyone anything.
Yeah.
What occurred to me was like, I don't know how to navigate this.
Yeah.
It's not fair to her for me to be a problem for her.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I have space to be really anything for anyone right now.
Right now. Yeah.
So I guess I'll just go into my cave.
Right.
And just stay out of everyone's way as well. I was pretty negative about it too, about like myself just being like, oh, I'm a problem. So I'm just going to take my problems and go in my cave. And when I'm done with them, I'll come out and maybe people will still be there. Maybe they won't. And what are you going to do? Right. So it was a odd way of thinking. And, you know, we end up expanding each other in relationships in so many different ways. And this is one of the ways that I've got expansion through our relationship is like this idea of just trust and stuff and being able to be vulnerable and all that. It didn't really occur to me as a thing that is valuable in any way or worth doing or, you know, like I didn't understand why anyone would do that before us. Right. I didn't,
because you had negative experiences. If you,
I never had, or at least it seems in retrospect that I did not have positive experiences when I spoke my truth without cutting bits out and, you know, like basically giving half truths. Most of the time I was only giving half truths and still getting a bunch of crap for it. Right. So, you know, like, so and it went on and on and on. So I was like, oh, I get it. People don't want to hear my truth. They don't want it. So I won't give it to them. That's fine. And I just became like, okay with that. Yeah. You know, like just no one can see me. Mm-hmm. No one knows me. Mm-hmm. They don't want to know me. So what's there to tell them? Right? Like, it's just something I had to accept that people don't give a shit. Right? Like, that's how it felt. So I'm like, well, people don't care. So forget it. Right.
And it seems like you and I have been in this journey together of learning more and more, like a transparency between us. Just like, oh, a little hurt just came up and just sharing it. And like, it's like not a big deal. Just being super transparent and not going into, oh, should I mention this? Oh, he or she might get upset. Oh, whatever. Just like a more free flowing exchange of our consciousness. And it just, that feels so peaceful to me.
I feel I'm going to sound like probably an asshole to most women that hear this. But my experience with women in the past has been when I speak my truth, they get hysterical. Like, like the sort of the bias of the emotional, like,
the Freudian orientation that the woman is going into hysteria.
Oh, this hysterical emotional woman.
Yes.
You know, and but that was my experience though. Like, so I'm not suggesting women are like this, and I'm not suggesting men can't be hysterical, because I've been hysterical many times. So I'm not suggesting that, but my experience was when I tell a woman truth, like that I know that she probably won't want to hear it. She flips out. Right. Mm-hmm. She just flips out and then I'm lost because I don't know how to handle any of that. So, so that's been my experience with women in relationships, is that when I say my truth, they're hurt and they get hysterical. And so, so as we start to form a more conscious, like more evolved partnership, obviously that orientation can't stay. It doesn't make sense anymore. Right. And the relationships that I had were, different. They weren't the same. They were all very immature and confused. And not for a lack of like trying, but for just people not knowing what we didn't know what we're doing in those moments. They did when they were getting hysterical and whatever. They were upset and confused. They were experiencing pain.
Yes.
I was as well. Everyone was in pain and confused, and so what's helped me come out of that is like, or has been challenging for me, is realizing that this time is different. I have to constantly remind myself that it's not the same thing. It's a different. Right. It's different.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that it would have been so easy for me to just, like, I had already became an expert in shutting down my heart to others.
Yes, yes.
I'm so good at it. And I'm not, it might sound like I'm proud of it. I'm not proud of it. It was built out of defense and self-preservation.
Yes.
But it's so easy for me to be indifferent to people, and to not approach the world with an open heart and compassion. That it allows me to see, like, the coldness in me that I created in order to survive,
to not get hurt.
Yeah, in order to be here, and this is what I did. And so, as I've come out of that, I'm able to now see how much more peaceful it is. And so that's why I think this topic is like so core and important.
Yes.
Is because we don't usually realize just how confused and in pain we are until we like come out of it.
Yes.
And then we look back at it and we're like, holy crap. Like what were we doing to ourselves, right?
Because it feels like this particular part of what we're talking about in relationship is, before we were talking a lot about how we could live from our rational mind and try to be practical and stuff like that. And now what I think we're talking about is the difference between living from your hurt and living from your heart in relationship with people we love.
Yeah.
And just like it's sometimes easy to go into the thinking mind of, oh, I need to make practical decisions. It's sometimes easy to go into our past hurt and think, I don't want to open my heart here because I got hurt before and I might get hurt again. And it's too scary.
Yeah.
But so I think what we're really saying is, in all aspects of life, including, we're making decisions about careers and things like that, and including when we're interacting with our loved ones, that the peace will be in living from your heart. It doesn't mean you might never get hurt, but you will live in peace and you will live in alignment. And what you were saying earlier about how sometimes in the past when you would share, it might not have been received very well. In relationship, when we're communicating our truth, living from the heart means not only am I going to communicate my truth and transparency to you, but when you do that towards me, I am going to do my best to accept it in love.
Yes, that's a good point. Actually, is in the past when I thought I was delivering my truth, a lot of times what I was doing was delivering my judgment as well. So I was confused about my own truth. A lot of times I would say, you have done this, and I don't like when you do this because blah, blah, blah. There was a lot of blaming happening, or judgment happening that I was just oblivious to. Right. And so I was attacking, and a lot of times I was thinking I was just speaking truthfully.
Yeah.
But really I was attacking things based on my personal opinions, and my personal,
on your thinking mind and
my judgments and stuff. And so a lot of times I was directly inciting the hysteria or the defensiveness or the anger, emotion, whatever it was. I was directly inciting it in them by almost attacking without meaning to attack.
To create it. Yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think what we're saying is, in relationship and particularly in communication, which is really, your communication with your partner is literally the infrastructure of your relationship. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes we can kind of tend to think of it like, oh, it's just over here. It's like something we do need to do, and maybe we need to get better at it. The way I think of it is communication, especially when things are hard, feels to me like the bare bones of your relationship. Like that is so important to your relationship. And I feel like what we're saying is in your communication with your partner or any loved one or anyone, to try to, first of all, communicate from your heart, which means I'm going to stick to mostly like I statements and, I experienced this, I felt this, I'm going to be vulnerable, I'm going to be truthful. And then when I receive whatever the other person is saying, I am also going to sit in my heart. And the other person might be insightful, inciting, might say things that might trigger me, might not be totally coming from that same orientation that I'm trying to handle.
We might get met with rejection and judgment.
We might get met with something really difficult, but I'm bigger than that. I am going to continue to stay in my heart with whatever is coming in. I'm going to stay in my heart. I'm going to feel my pain. I'm going to feel my feelings, but I'm not going to lash out. I'm not going to do the same thing. I am going to live in my heart as I receive as well. And this is very masterful and so expansive.
And it's not easy. At least for me. For me, it's not easy. And I think, but I think the more we do it, the more we realize it's easier to do that actually than it is to, I think, go into the shut down place. That place is much harder for everyone.
There's always a purity and a peace that you will feel when your heart is open and you keep showing up and you keep doing the highest and best. There's a purity and a peace that you live in. And it doesn't in a way even matter what happens on the external. I mean, of course we have our preferences, but when we are living in our highest and best, in our purity and our peace, it feels so aligned. And that's all we can do. I remember years ago, I was in this spiritual group, and one of the women in the spiritual group, she channeled this little message for us from the Akashic records. And it was really simple. It was just keep showing up. Keep showing up in your highest and best, no matter what. Just keep showing up. And that has been a mantra I've just said to myself over and over again, no matter what's going on in the external, no matter what's going on with you or anything else, I am just going to keep showing up in my highest and best with my open heart, in my purity. I'm going to just keep trying. That's all I can do.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good place to end. We're a bit over an hour. Did you wanted to read a channeling though? You had mentioned, I think, right?
Yeah.
Did you still want to do that? Yeah.
Yeah. I thought,
so
okay, maybe we can just end with this.
Yeah. I think let's end with it. And this is a channeled work. Do you want to just maybe give the background on it?
Yeah, this is just from a friend on Facebook who posted this, I think, really beautiful channeling from Mother Mary, from this amazing woman, Lisa Najjar, did the channeling. And the channeling was in response to a question about leaving a secure job to follow one's heart. And so it's really what we've been talking about today.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so I'll read it. And I'm going to read just like snippets of it so it's not too long. So Mother Mary says, in regards to following one's heart, pray for faith. That is all any of us have is faith. Just faith and your connection to the divine. That is all you ever have. Nothing else is secure in the world. Nothing. All you have is today and the opportunity to follow your joy, follow your truth, follow your path, and follow your God-given spirit. The rest can wash away in a flood. The rest can be taken away in a heartbeat. So do not rely on the structures and situations that you have in place that give you this sense of false security. Strike out, all of you, towards a dream that you have inside of you or a passion that is not being expressed. If you have a decision that you need to make and you want to go in one direction versus another, but one offers the illusion of security, turn aside. Do not look at that security. Go towards your true soul's desire, your true passion, your true joy. Fear is like Satan. It is only there to derail you. It will never take you to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And if you manage to go through your entire life by living in a tight box where everything seems safe, you would not have won. You would not have won because when your soul rose from that body and surveyed the life you just lived, it would want to redo that life in order to make different choices, choices that would have taken you into freedom and authenticity. So you see, you do not avoid anything by living that way. Rather, you prolong the inevitable because you will be faced with the same choices in the next life. The choice is yours. Follow your joy, follow your truth, stay in love, stay in peace, and have faith. Have faith in the beautiful Creator God, the one you love, the one that will never disappoint.
That's awesome. I like that. That's good stuff, and it's so relevant to what we're saying. So that's a perfect place to end. If you guys like the video, like the stream, click the like button. It really helps out. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And also, we have the Patreon link in the description if you'd like to join that and get on Discord with us. And we're going to be announcing our course that's coming up. What was the date? Do you remember the date? December.
It's a week from Friday, December 10th.
December 10th. We'll be doing a course. So we'll be announcing the information for that soon as well.
Yeah. So if you join the Patreon community before next Friday, you can join in on this amazing course that we're going to be offering.
And the courses we'll do one per month as well. So every month we'll be doing a course that will be like a webinar and then perhaps like a Q&A interactive component to it at the end as well. On Zoom, live with us type thing.
It'll be really fun.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to like connect and actually, we do a lot of talking. We do a lot of talking like to chat and whatever, but it'll be fun to like jump on actual calls with each other.
See each other. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
So thank you so much for watching and listening, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.
And every blessing in living from your heart.
Take care.
Bye.